Call to order, Town of Prescott Valley Work Study Meeting, June 20th, 2019. Welcome, everyone. Clerk, please call the roll.
Well, Vice Mayor Laura Lenai.
I am here.
Councilmember Rick Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Kendall Schumacher.
Present.
Councilmember Mary Mallory.
Here.
Councilmember Marty Grossman.
Still here.
Councilmember Don Packard.
Present.
Mayor Kelpaguda.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll just jump right in. Item 3, discussion IGA with Yavapai County for Glassford Hill Road and Viewpoint Drive lane widenings. Mr.
Good
Davis.
evening, Mayor and Council. The item you do have before you is approval for intergovernmental agreements, or IGAs, we'll use the acronym, for turn lane project partnership with Yavapai County. These are 2 turn lane projects on Highway SR 89A. Just to bring Council up to date, you see the overhead that you see here. Every 5 years we do a regional transportation study through the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization, or CYMPO. We're currently in another cycle of a 5-year plan. Well, 5 years ago, there was recommendations made out of that transportation plan for growth planning, in addition to revenues and the like. So out of this public study that went on, that was actually finaled last March. It went on for about a year. Finaled last March of 2018. All these studies do, we take public input, have a couple public meetings, take input throughout, takes about a year, and we look at how we are going to be guided with our transportation network regionally for the next 5 years. This study was done, as I mentioned, last March, and there were some recommendations from the public input, plus the technical data, I always like to point out, that was done with the transportation professional, that there was actually some recommendations here of projects that would be the best use of available dollars. As you can see, the 2 highlighted projects there are the ones I'm going to talk to tonight. Is actually priority number 4 and priority number 6 is some additional turn lanes. So not very huge projects, but actually very viable, and that if they're implemented, it will greatly help some of the mobility we have on these projects. So going into exactly what these turn lanes are, the recommendation for Viewpoint Drive, what came out of the study in the commuter hour in the afternoon, that traffic backs up on 89A on the main line of the highway for traffic on the ramp, because there's only 1 lane, as you can see, in order to get into the subdivisions of Pronghorn and Viewpoint, and in the county unincorporated area out towards Paquito Valley and Paquito Valley.
Antelope Meadows.
Antelope Meadows, thank you. Antelope Meadows. So this is a very good project, and as you can see, what's noted in red there is actually the scope of the project, and that's the area in red, about $120,000 worth of a construction cost, and there's a design to be done too that's actually been done. Talked about partnerships. As you can see up there, we actually have 3 partners. This particular intergovernmental agreement is between Yavapai County and the Town of Prescott Valley, because ADOT has some challenges with money off their system if they don't benefit. But I do want to point out that ADOT is a partner because we're going to do our part for the lane widening, but the extra capacity, ADOT's going to redo the striping. So they are part as the partnership, so they'll do their project concurrently, separately, but if I'm explaining it well enough, there's actually capacity underneath the bridge you can see in the exhibit there that's actually blocked out. So years ago, when they put that interchange in, about 15 years ago, they actually planned for this capacity. You won't have to change the bridge. They stripe out that extra area. So all they really have to do is black out the white lines, and you've got that additional capacity of a lane with just changing the stripes. So that's why ADOT's a partner. So they're concurrent with us, but not part of the intergovernmental agreement. That's the Viewpoint second lane, we call it, that you see in this exhibit. The next exhibit you see here is actually for Glassford Hill Road. This is called the Glassford Hill Road Free Flow Right Turn Lane. This project takes off from the ramp on 89A, which is ADOT's right-of-way on the Glassford Hill ramp going eastbound. As you can see, what we're actually adding there is you have capacity on the ramp, but what we're going to add is actually a 3rd lane on Glassford Hill Road up to Tuscany, north, we call it, across the street from Granville Parkway. As you can see, there's already a turn lane in there. That's detailed in the baby blue there. So what we'll actually do is similar to what we've had at Long Look years ago. That will be a free flow right. You won't have to stop. We hope they slow down. to make the curve, and then that'll add extra mobility because you don't have to stop like you do now. So we're seeing these growth patterns. So we'll get that third lane, and traffic that's going to continue southbound on Glassford Hill Road would have that basically 1,700 feet to merge into the main lines. And you'll see much more traffic capacity going on Tuscany, which you're seeing the growth in Granville in addition to Santa Fe. So this is one of those growth things that come out from the transportation study that technically it can make sense. We're seeing more cars. We'll get a lot more mobility. So this is one of those well-timed projects for the expenditure. And the cost of this is a neighborhood of about $500,000. So that's the two projects. What you have in front of you tonight is the funding mechanism we need to be put in place. So the county has actually passed this through the Board of Supervisors, and they've discussed it. So what we need to do is get both our governing bodies to approve this intergovernmental agreement so it puts the funding in place so we can do the design and the construction. If all goes well, and upon your approval, we anticipate starting the design right away, and we really look for the fall to get these particular projects going. They're needed now, and the nice thing is when you get the funding in place, it's time to move fast and actually get the construction in place. So we're looking forward to bringing this back to you on July 11th and said, yes, let's get this signed so we can get the funding in place and get going on the construction. That's the project. Be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Council, any questions?
What are timelines like on a project like this last one here for Glassford?
Glassford Road.
When would we begin and would we complete?
Where you have to get the design started, it'll take about 60 days, and then we got the bidding timeline. So we've already started looking at this with Dave and Associates to look at some of the design, but we're anticipating if we get approval for the funding in mid-July from both entities, maybe you can split that up to about 30 days, and then we'll send out for construction bid. That takes about 60 days, but looking out, probably be hard to start before November 1st, but we could start in earnest around November 1st if it goes well. And each of these projects would take, maybe 60 days. So by the first of the year, I would say we could actually have them delivered. Good time of year to bid them at that particular time in the fall.
Yeah,
So.
I think I understand why that's such an important question to the citizens, but man, they always want the timelines.
And timelines are important. We will set that up, and that's what we've memorialized. And keep in mind, the new budget year approves this, so it's all in our both county and town budgets. So it's just the processes, so to speak, so that when we do need to pay our design engineer or contractor, the finance department said, yes, you've gotten that approval, and we have the budget money available. So that's the general timeline.
Thank you, Norm.
Councilman Packard?
Yeah, it's a shared cost, correct?
Correct.
Now, is ADOT, is the state going to put any money in on that?
They are. This project is best done at ease because you can see there's no portion of the viewpoint that is in ADOT's right-of-way, but the line striping. So rather than getting the third leg, they are participating. That's why they're on our exhibit. But it's more expeditious. We work concurrently but independently. So the viewpoint, they'll stripe out the lanes. This one, ADOT actually has plans to maybe do some ramp improvements there, but that's why they're kind of a silent partner with no funding, but they are very much engaged. And of course, ADOT has promised that, expedited plan turnaround locally because they want to see these improvements put in place too. Keep in mind the viewpoint, we're seeing that backup right on their main lines today, and that's something that they say, yeah, guys, they've been waiting on us to get going. And once again, it's a funding. But the nice thing is, I don't know if I point out yet, with the funding partnership with the county, keep in mind, we have the direct benefit of the town, but Paquito Valley and Antelope Meadows, the unincorporated county, there's many residents out there, so everyone benefits. So it was reasonable for the county to say, yes, we're more than happy to throw in for that because both our particular people we represent are benefited from these projects. But yes, ADOT is a partner, and they will do the plan review since we're adjacent to the right-of-way. And they do have some funding skin in the game, but independently with their funding sources.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
We'll bring it back July 11th then for approval.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Item 4, discussion of security camera status report. Mr. Danner.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I promised Larry that I would talk for 2 minutes tonight, but you know me, so that's probably not going to happen. But I first wanted to let you know that next week you guys are going to have your monitors at your stations there. So hopefully for your meeting next week, you guys will be able to have a much better view than what you have right now. So
That'll be all gone?
that will be gone, and you guys will have monitors up at your dais there.
So we're not going to have that minefield on the floor down there
Oh.
any longer. Wow.
Well, I am here tonight. About 2 months ago, I believe you guys approved this camera project for us, which is basically a project to replace our current security cameras with much better cameras, IP-based cameras. And I showed you a demonstration of the system and everything. I wanted to give you a status update tonight of where we're at with that. Just going to kind of give you an idea of what we're doing with the cameras. For the most part, we're replacing existing cameras. So when we have a camera, we are recabling that location to get the infrastructure in place to put the new cameras in, and we're just going to replace the existing camera with these new cameras. However, there are a few areas where we are adding cameras. What you see in front of you right now is the first floor, and this is a specific area where we're adding some new cameras that were specifically requested by the Supreme Court of Arizona for the judge. So we'll be adding a camera. We currently have a camera in the Sally Port right now, but we're going to be moving that camera outside of the Sally Port so that it shows basically in the area where the judge parks his vehicle. So we'll have that camera there. We're also going to have a camera outside of the holding cell area. There's currently one in the holding cell. It's going to be outside of that area, kind of showing in that area between the library and the Civic Center. And then we're going to be adding an additional camera in the courtroom to a camera that's already in there. So we're going to have both a view of the audience and the chairs there and a view of the judge as well. So we'll get a whole picture of what's going on in that room. And then we're going to be replacing the cameras that are in the hallway there. We're going to be adding a camera that basically does a picture of what's going on at the court window. And then we're going to be adding a camera at the door above. If you walk into where the courtroom, before you go into the courtroom, if you look up to your left, there's a camera up there, up on top. We've never used that, actually, I don't believe. We're going to be adding a camera there as well to get all that traffic that's right in front of the courtroom. So that's mostly what's going on with the first floor. As far as the second floor goes, we're going to be mostly replacing existing cameras. There's 2 in customer accounts there, as well as the 2 in the hallway. I'm trying to think of what that red dot is there. That looks like it's inside. I think mostly we're replacing stuff on the second floor. I don't think we're adding anything. But I'll try to get you some more information in case we are, but I think we're just replacing. On the third floor, we're mostly replacing existing as well. That's the blue dots there. So basically it's in the hallway area there pretty much. But then the additional is going to be added outside of the doors as you come up the stairs onto the third floor landing there so that we can get that kind of outside view. One thing that we have discussed in the past is having cameras more on the outside to get those areas as you come into the building, those areas that maybe there's some activity that we don't want happening, those kinds of things. So that is one of the additional cameras that we're going to add. We can't cable to that area, so within the money that was budgeted and the funds that you approved, I was actually able to add 4 additional wireless cameras, which is great because we're going to be able to hit, which I'll show you in a different slide here in just a second. We're going to be able to hit the different corners of the building and actually hopefully come up with one, as we've discussed, that we can put online for people to kind of see what's going on and maybe point that at the amphitheater or something like that. So we've been able to get some wireless cameras within that budget and stay within that budget. So I'm real happy about that. On the fourth floor, this is basically just replacing existing cameras, which is pretty much in the hallway there, so that we can get all those different entrances. Finally, I wanted to show you kind of a map of the outside area, which, as you can see there, if you look at the Civic Center, you see basically 4 cameras on the corners of the building there. That's what we're envisioning. That's obviously we're gonna have to tweak that a little as we put the camera up and kind of get a view of what we can see there. But that is the thought, is to put those wireless cameras on those corners of the building. I did do a kind of a study of wireless and took a laptop around and see what our wireless signal is as we walk around the building, and we've got really decent signals, so I think these cameras are going to work really well on the corners of the building there. You see on the side of the Civic Center, on the west side there's 2. Those are the ones for the judge. So you've got the smaller view, which is towards his vehicle, and then you've got the larger, which is going to show that ramp area and stuff, which is currently in the Sally Port. So as you see at the police department, we're adding an additional camera, which will be outside of the new area. We're actually adding 2, I believe, 1 inside and 1 outside. To get the new expansion. We'll be replacing all of the police cameras as well. Just to give you a status of where we're at, actually, I have all the cameras in hand. We have to do the cabling in order to put those cameras in, so that the cabling is where we're at right now. The library has been completed cabling-wise, so we're ready to go there. Town Hall, we have just a couple more cables to do on the first floor, and then we'll be done with Town Hall, and then police will be done next week. So we're gonna have this all done before the end of the fiscal year. But all that cabling will be done, and then I'll be working with Josh in facilities to get those cameras mounted, and all the new cameras mounted in all the different areas. So we're moving along. We'll have everything done that we need to pay for by the end of the fiscal year, and then we'll have all the cameras up as soon as possible, and we'll have a great system, I think, to use going forward in the future here. I have also purchased, as part of that, the police have purchased some new TV monitors for over at the police department. I've purchased very small mini computers, basically, to attach to those TVs so that we can get whatever views that they need to be able to see in their report writing area and their records area, to keep an eye on what's going on the cameras. So I would be welcome to any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one question. You might have said it and I missed it, but I do notice when we go in the elevators or the place for cameras up there, there are wires. Did you say we're putting cameras
inside the elevators?
Yeah.
Those are just fake cameras.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
Within the elevator, those are fake cameras. I mean, we probably, with these wireless, we probably could do that, because I haven't really tested a wireless signal in the elevator, but my phone sometimes goes out when I'm in the middle of traveling, so I'm not sure how those would work, but yeah.
I just kind of always notice that up there in the corner.
Yeah, those are fake, just to kind of dissuade the irresponsible behavior that often goes on.
And it's worked. Okay, we used to have a great deal of vandalism inside of our elevators.
Until today.
Guess what?
We
It's
just
gone away.
blew our plug.
Mark Stone, could you please edit that out of the, whatever's going on there?
One of the elevators, if I remember right, I think I just see wires hanging from the corner. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They may not have had a camera to put up in there, but
Okay. Anyway, just
we'll have lots of cameras now that we're replacing them. So, yeah.
You got
Vice Mayor
it.
Nye?
I'm especially glad that you're addressing Judge's parking, because he always has such distinctive vehicles. He's a double target from my point of view, so that was comforting for me to hear.
Yeah, we definitely added the cameras that were requested for his area.
Yeah. The very good thing is this is the last of the items that the Arizona Supreme Court had on the list, because the ballistic material either was going in this week or early next. It'll resemble what's in front of you. in terms of its capabilities. And there was that item, and then the cameras, and then pretty much everything that was identified is done.
And the panic alarms.
That's good stuff.
And if that's no other questions or comments, thanks, Casey.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It was a long 2 minutes.
We'll move on to item 5,
My fault.
additional well capacity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think Larry told him he could only talk for 2 minutes because he told me I had to make sure I was done by 8. So
What?
enough time for me, right?
We'll let you keep talking while we leave.
Works. So I'm here to essentially give you a summary of the capacity increases that we've experienced over the last year in our water system, based on all the projects and work that you guys approved. And so I just wanted to give a recap of that. And I'm covering 3 different areas. One is the new wells that we've drilled. Number 2 is wells that we had already drilled at one point or had been using previously that we had to equip or re-equip because we had taken them out of service. And then we've done some administrative work to increase our permitted withdrawals from certain wells through the Arizona Department of Water Resources. So when you're looking at a well, we've actually got 2 different capacities. We've got, okay, how much can the pump out of the ground, and that's the physical capacity. And then there's what are we legally allowed to take out of the ground, and that's usually a total volume for the year number that the Department of Water Resources gives us. And so we made changes or improvements in those 3 areas. So I'm going to jump to the conclusion real quick before I go through all the details. So the result of all this was that we added or reestablished almost 3,300 gallons per minute of capacity, which, as you can see, in terms of a population equivalency, is about equal to around 24,000 people. Now, that doesn't mean we're serving an additional 24,000 people. What that's going to do is give us redundancy and operational flexibility within our system. So that's the punchline, and now I'll go through the joke. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So with the new wells, you're very familiar with the Little Pete well and the Antelope Park well. The Little Pete should be called the Big Pete because it gives us 2,000 gallons a minute, which is one of our top producers. And the Antelope Park well will give us 500 gallons per minute, so a total of 2,500 gallons per minute added, which will serve roughly 18,000 people equivalent population. And the 50% service factor essentially means that if you're looking at a 1-year period of time, the average day, whatever that number is, typically it occurs maybe in February or March. But in the middle of summer, they require a whole lot, and people require almost double the capacity. So these numbers are based on a peak summertime number. We could serve that population. If it was in the middle of winter, you could double that population. But we're looking at our worst case scenario. And just real quick, just so you're aware, the Little Pete well is not online yet. I'll have some pictures at the end to show you. It's under construction, but probably in about a month we will be in a position of having that one online. The Antelope well, that project has been a little bit more problematic. It was more difficult drilling, and there were problems that were encountered. And so the driller has just now pulled off of that site. And so the contractor that's going to be equipping and doing the above-ground piping is just now mobilizing to that site. And so it's going to take another 2 months before that well is close to being ready. All right, so the equipping or re-equipping, the Legend Larry well was drilled in 2004 when we drilled all the other north well field wells, the ones north of 89A. But we never did put a pump in that one or build any of the well house or anything. And so We actually equipped that well. It is up. It is able to be run now. And that one's going to give us 500 gallons a minute. And then 2 other wells that we re-equipped are the Huggins well and the Windsong well. Both of these wells, back in 2007 when we had the downturn and money was really tight, there were about 6 wells that we considered to be our lower producing wells, these being 2 of them, that we took about 6 of them offline because the power costs, if we weren't running the wells, even the power costs just to have them sitting there from APS standby costs were anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per month each. And so by taking the 6 wells, disconnecting them from power, we were saving about $70,000 a year on power costs. And so we just brought these 2 back online, and you can see that the total combined for equipping and re-equipping about another 700, almost 800 gallons a minute, 55 to 6,000 people equivalency. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the locations of these. And so the dots shown in red are the 2 new wells that we added, Little Pete and Antelope. The 3 are the ones that we re-equipped. And so 3 of these are in the green or the blue area at the top. Essentially, that is the area that the north well field is in and can pump to without booster pumps or anything else. So that's direct feed to those areas. The purple area is essentially the area served by our central well field, which the 4 biggest wells that we have are over near Granville and primarily serve this area. We can transfer water back and forth. But with the addition of the 2 new wells and the equipping of the Legend Larry well, most of the capacity that we have added, you can see, is in that upper area. I wanted to point that out now, so I'm going to mention that one more time at the end. All right, so now the administrative changes. So we had a number of wells that, had we pumped them for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, we would have exceeded the amount that Department of Water Resources said we could have pulled out of the ground. And so with the out and the Middle Robin well, the first 2 that I've listed there, we had the ability to pump out 75% of the capacity. So in other words, we could pump it, and if we did that 360 or 24 hours a day, we'd have to stop in September and take them offline until the next year. Okay, so obviously that doesn't help us when we need operational flexibility. If we've been pumping those wells for 6 or 8 months and we decide we're going to take them offline, we take them offline, and then we have another well fail somewhere else and we need that capacity, it's like, oh, are we stuck now? And so we went and had our hydrogeologist put some reports together and do some calculations, and we submitted applications back to the Department of Water Resources to increase those capacities because they want to make sure that you can provide that water and you're not impacting other wells in the area that people have drilled. So they look at that very closely. So for the out and the Middle Robin well, we were actually able to significantly increase the paper capacity of those wells from 600 acre feet per year to a little over 1,400 acre feet per year. And so number one, we'll be able to pump those wells 100% of the time if we need to, but we also got additional capacity so that for those 2, with the 500 gallon a minute pumps that are in there, we can actually take those pumps out and put 900 gallon a minute pumps in there to get an increase in physical capacity as well. So those will be future projects that we'll be doing. Pronghorn Ranch and Viewpoint, we also got those bumped up either to the 100% level or just above that. And so that gives us a paper capacity of an additional 10,000 or 11,000 people we could serve with that. Again, that's going to give us the operational flexibility and redundancy. So in summary, we've increased our physical production capacity by about 30% overall, which amounts to, we're at about a 12,000 gallon per minute that we could pump out of our upper system, which is the main area. And so you can see that based on That's equivalent to about 18 million gallons per day, which is about double what we need in peak summer day, which is about 9 million gallons per day. So we're about a 200% coverage rate based on worst case peak day. In addition, we can serve our whole population with our 4 largest wells out of service, or conversely, we can serve the entire population with just those 4 wells and all the other ones out of service. Typically, we're running 10 to 12 wells at any given time. What I talked about with the North Wellfield having the additional capacity, so with that additional capacity, we have the ability in the North Wellfield to pump an equivalent volume of what we could already do in the Central Wellfield. And so what that means is that with the upper area, we could completely shut off the Central Wellfield and all the wells in the purple area, and in the middle of summer, we could serve everything from just the northern area. Or we could shut off the northern area and just serve everything from the Central Wellfield. So it really gives us the ability to move water around and not just be pumping from one specific area all the time, which does help our aquifer. And just some pictures that were actually taken today. This is the Legend Larry well. And this is the inside. This is the Little Pete well. You can see this is a much bigger motor, and this is what we call a line shaft. So the motor is above ground. With the one you just saw, there was no motor in the picture because it's 600 feet below ground. So this is the Little Pete, obviously bigger because it's a much bigger, it's a 2,000 gallon per minute pump. And that's it.
That's really comforting when you get right down to it. I hope that our citizens pay attention when this information is provided and feel comfortable, because as we all know, people are very concerned about water because we have people all over Yavapai County giving out disinformation. So this is straight from the expert, and I hope people will pay attention to it and back off and not be so anxious. Thank you, Neil.
I just wanted to say thank you, Neil. It was a very good presentation and quite amazing on what we have available here in our town. Excellent job. Thank you.
Nothing else? Great job, Neil.
And we're not running out of water. We've got a lot of water beneath our feet, so this is,
Preaching to the choir there. Thank you, sir. With that being said, we're adjourned.